Hey Reddit, it's time for the cringiest experiences I've ever had to deal with. One time I was with my friends at a convention and it was really enjoyable. My friends and my brother decided to play a round of Cuphead together. It was a demo game because it was a gaming convention. After about 2 rounds they managed to get to the Jimmy the Great. Then this gigantic person walks up to them, taps them on the shoulder and says, "You've been playing for way too long. It's my turn." Immediately both my friends get up and this man sits down and places a thermos, preferably filled with Mountain Dew, and begins to play. We simply shrug this off and begin to enjoy the rest of the day. When we leave, who do we see still playing Cuphead? Mr. Neckbeard, and he managed to make it to the final boss. Thanks for reading. So, I was at an anime convention today, and it's the first time I've been to one without a parent or adult. Keep in mind that I was a minor, so I played in a few Ninja Storm tournaments before, and I would not call myself a pro, but I'm not a bad player either. So, when I saw the Ninja Storm game section, I waited until there was a free game, so I could have a go. The rule for this kind of thing is dinner stays on for a few rounds had passed, and I was still sitting on the booth. That's when the Neckbeard arrived. He had a crutch and obviously had not showered for a while, and he sat down next to me, and then he laughed at me, asking when my older brother was coming back so he could play. I started to get nervous at this point and just laughed him off and assured him that I was the person he was supposed to be playing. He laughed again and told me the people who were waiting for a turn that he was going to be sitting at the booth for a long time before turning back to me. He started to talk about how he was going to be a lady for the first time and that I should go over to the hall selling cosplay after he's beaten me so I can put on a dress or something. Another thing to note is that I have a slight anxiety disorder and was already anxious enough sitting by myself as my friend was in the dealer hall. After he said all those things, I was shaking. I did not know what to say and I was trying not to cry in front of all these people after he had been weird. I did win the game, but then he started touching my shoulder and knee, asking me for a rematch. Someone stepped in and told him not to touch me, but also that the rematch was allowed if I accepted it. I did, but was tearing up at the point I did not want him to touch me or be near me anymore. I lost this game, and he laughed at me as I stood up and to walk away. This was the worst experience in my life, but it made me smile that the guy who had intervened set up a game on a different console so that no one was free to play with him. This happened 2 years ago, but the memory is still clear as day. For some backstory, it was a family reunion after we all are, my older cousin, I'll call him M, offered for us to play Super Smash Bros. In his room, which seemed innocent enough. My younger cousin, who I'll call S, came with us. I had seen M's room for a few months earlier, and it was completely normal. A bed, desk, couch, and TV. When I went into his room, I noticed a giant Kirby plush. This wasn't the problem, however. The first problem was directly behind it. Anime body pillows. At least 3 of them were stacked behind the Kirby plush. I already had an intuition that something was wrong. I finally caught on to the rest of the room, which was even worse. Every wall was covered with at least 2 posters of underage anime characters almost naked. I should have immediately went downstairs, came up with an excuse and forgotten about it, but I did not. The whole time they were playing, I could not help but feel strange. For reference, I was 15 and S was 11. M and someone else was sitting in the back, and I overheard M say, "They won't notice, they're too busy playing." They were wrong. S and I were giving each other looks. We both knew how wrong this was. While I was playing, 2 people came in. One was my uncle, and the other my father. It was really embarrassing either way. My father tried to not to talk about it, but my uncle straight up said to M, "This room is not safe for kids." I only played 2 rounds. I then went downstairs, and we quickly left by the assurance of my father. I had not seen M since. Online dating Neckbeard story. I never met him in real life. This happened yesterday. I'm into long hair and beard, so I saw this guy's profile on Plenty of Fish. I only looked at the pictures as I was on my break at work and heading back to work. I give him a, "Hey, how are you?" He tells me I'm gorgeous. I told him my responses may be slow as I am at work, and he's like, "Oh, good, you have a job." Then he immediately asks if I'm ready to have kids. I tell him I cannot afford them right now. He himself was a line cook at a small restaurant according to his profile, so I knew he couldn't really afford them either. He told me I should get a second job online if that was the case. I told him I was not joining an MLM and I'd be comfortable with my income in a few years' time. He did not know what an MLM was, so I went back on and rereading his profile. It was all about how he deserved loyalty and respect because he always gave that out. Very neckbeard stuff about how much pleasure he gives to women. I did not save it because I blocked him after this chat. I can post it if you guys request. So then he drops this line. Life is only meant for having children. I asked him what he thought about women. He said they were delicious and tells me of some things he would like to do with women. I told him I did not talk like that with people I did not know, and he's very sorry for rocking your boat. It's nice talking to you, and I said you're coming off very neckbeard. Then he says, maybe you should lose some weight before you judge people. He himself was also a large person. I blocked him. Went to a camp trip a couple of months ago. I'll try and keep this short. My friend is short and has a well-developed body. Perfect bait for neckbeards. People crept on her before, but not as much as this one. We were going to a campsite with dorms, cafeteria, basically a school in the woods for 3 days. On the way there, I was riding with my friend, and she told me multiple sexual jokes since we are 13 years old and at puberty. And the neckbeard behind us tells us he wants to join in. And she says, no, you do not know what a joke is. Let's call neckbeard Ricky. Ha. He goes back to his seat, visibly sad. We arrive, me and my friend, and 2 others finish up lunch, dinner, and head out for sleep. The teachers are really deep sleepers, and they sleep at the same time as the students, meaning that the students can be as loud, maybe not very loud, and stay up as long as they want. Basically, midnight activities. If you want to mingle, do that at night. If you want to finish up homework, the night is your best friend. If you want to use the devices you managed to bring, use it all night. I woke up to hear extroverts mingling in the next room. I do not wake up my roommate, just take a bath and head out to the lounge and read my book. My classmates call it the book grind because we have a very big language project involving books. Fast forward to the very creepy part. I heard the loudest, most scared yell I have ever heard. I got there, and there I see my friend almost naked with Ricky. A very round man with a growing beard, and the smell so bad, is beside my friend. I aggressively pull him out of the bed and hold him back. I do not have anything to hold his hands with, so here I am, holding a naked fat kid to the wall. I yell as hard as I can for teachers. Ricky is struggling to break out of my grasp. I push his head as hard as I can to the wall, and the girls outside of the girls' dorm come outside because they heard the sounds of my yelling. The teachers yell at me and Ricky at what's going on. I tell her the situation. Ricky tells an entirely different story, but they believe me as I had never done anything to get in trouble before. Ricky has been accused of harassment many times. My teachers get Ricky away from my friend as far as possible, and my teacher told my friend to lock her doors every night. The prequel turns sequel to Writers Club Neckbeard. This one is someone I was actually friends with, and he got vulgar. As usual, our characters, sadly most of this is BK before Kara, so I was desperate and a sad person and took any affection I got. So, here we go. Trish, me, tall, curvy, and at the time I grew out of the bleach in my hair, so I was naturally blonde. Love Kingdom Hearts, the tomboy comics and anime. Art nerd. Asuna, my ex-best friend. Short, petite, we dated for a couple of weeks, but stayed friends. Loves SAO and other goofy anime, but it's sweet. Slightly on the spectrum. Anime nerd, Ben 10, Azuna's crush. A niche guy. He has a very particular sense of humor, and he looks like the Screamo genre dyed in his hair. It's really soft. Loves the song, I Cannot Decide. Camo, little guy that had a crush on me at the time. Azuna and I teased him for it, cause he gets super embarrassed. Always wore a camo jacket. Fallout nerd. Kaneki, the neckbeard. Tall, buzz cut, acne-covered cheeks, and constantly has a beard made of blackheads. Bleached his hair white to look like Kaneki Ken, who was idolized. A bit more on the spectrum than Azuna, but still high-functioning. Called me Baka-chan and insisted I either call him Kaneki or Oni-chan. Our story begins a few months before I wrote the story in the last tale, so the last year of middle school I dated a few times, but nothing very serious. I was desperate for affection and took what I got. I drew a lot in class and wore my favorite t-shirt as much as I could, a Tokyo Ghoul shirt with Suzuya on it. That shirt is how I encountered Kaneki. I was in the lunch line and someone patted my shoulder. I'm very sensitive when it comes to people touching me. I have PTSD from a family I lived with, so I jumped and turned around to see the hulk of an 8th grader who was much taller than me with a shivering-inducing grin on his acne-covered face. I like your shirt. Kaneki is my favorite. I smiled, happy to find another anime fan in my grade. Nice, obviously, so is mine. He asked me my name, and I told him, and vice versa. We got lunch and sat down with Ben 10 and Azuna. We all started talking. Soon, Camel showed up with his food and sat with us. Kaneki and I kept talking after lunch before I had to go to art. Trish, you're so baka. I'm gonna call you Baka-chan. Okay, Kaneki. Please call me Ono-chan. That was the first sign of something weird. We said our goodbyes and I went to art. The next day, we were all at the table again. Kaneki was a little late because he stayed behind for a class, but as soon as he was situated... Let's play a game, Baka-chan. It's called Who's Most Likely To. Sure, how do we play? I'll say who's most likely to blank, and we point at who's most likely to. Simple enough, and it sounds fun, so we play. Mine has been 10. It started out fun. Lunch ended. Kaneki and I kept talking, and we parted ways for class. The next day is when it started to go south. We were playing Who's Most Likely To, and the questions were getting weird and sexual about me. Who's most likely to lose their virginity first? He points at me. So do Kamo and Azuna. Who's most likely to rape? He points at himself. Everyone else is confused, but he's grinning. Who's most likely to get raped? Again, he's the only one who's pointing, and he points at me. Everyone, though uncomfortable, brushes it off. At this point, Azuna had asked me out, so she was gripping my hand the whole time to gauge if I need to leave or not. As soon as lunch was over, she ran to class, though I was the only one to talk to Kaneki. I'm not certain how our conversation went, but it ended with him admitting he had a crush on me, and me running terrified to class. Believe it or not, that year was the only year people ever told me that they had feelings for me. I'm not attractive, so it was really intimidating to have a bunch of guys and a girl have romantic interest in me. I did not know how to handle it, but I told Azuna what had happened, and she told me that she, Kamo, and Ben 10 went to the office to file sexual harassment. The next day, Kaneki had bleached his hair and apologized to me, saying he was on the spectrum. Azuna got upset and said something along the lines of, I'm on the spectrum, doesn't make me tell people I'm going to rape them. That's the best thing Azuna does in these stories, but this one is long, so I'll make a part 2 soon.